Hey guys, welcome back to the Roman and Rhodes YouTube channel. I'm Roman.
And I'm Rhodes.
And today we're talking about magic, specifically how magic works in fiction.
Not in reality. That'll be another podcast entirely.
We got to talking earlier because I saw another YouTube channel that we're talking about how magic works in film and in literature.
And when it doesn't work.
And it just so happened that you had read the article that this YouTube channel was referring to. We'll put some links in the description.
You saw the video, I actually read a book.
Yes. So this is comes from Brandon Sanderson.
Awesome name.
He has,
Sounds made up.
Well, I don't know. I didn't read much about him.
No.
But he has what's called Sanderson's Law of Magic.
Naturally named it after himself.
Yes.
How does it divide it up? What is the basic law?
Okay, the law is that an author's ability to solve conflicts with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands said magic.
And that's basically to make it work. Because there's two different types of...
There's soft magic and there's hard magic.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean... when I first heard of it, I thought that they meant soft magic means that it was poorly written and not really established in the story. But he doesn't say that it's like that. He basically says it's just a style of doing it. And in order to work as a storytelling mechanism, it has to be presented a certain way.
Yes. And we're talking about, works of fiction kind of like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Avatar: Last Airbender.
Which I don't consider... In the funny fact, not a funny fact, it's an amusing fact. First episode, they call bending magic, and they make sure to establish this isn't magic. So does somebody saying it's not magic mean that it is not magic in the show? Because they break in the laws a little bit too here with when people have superpowers. The way
I see it is that any form of fiction that has supernatural abilities that humans or other characters can use, and I would even consider like Star Wars.
Perfect. He does call it magic, and they do say he does call it magic or hocus pocus, and they're like, it's not that, it's a real thing, but it is, as we're referring to it, a magic.
So soft magic is really like an undefined magic or power that's used in a story.
You don't know like where the energy comes from. You don't know the limitations of it or the rules.
You know very little of it, so it keeps a sense of wonder.
Yeah, it makes the world seem vast, and like this could be coming from. All right, so Lord of the Rings is the example with Gandalf having a soft magic power where he seems to. Everybody's always complaining that he doesn't use it when he needs to, and that's why it's a soft one. It's like we don't know where there are limits on it that we weren't understanding. Who knows?
And
but it led to the vastness of
the world. And there's magic that makes like the One Ring work. It makes like Sauron come back.
Still don't get any of it.
And it's not necessary for the story because the story is about Frodo. You know that there's evil. There's evil in the ring. Frodo has to go. Drop it in the volcano. And magic is just a part of the world, and it doesn't really.
So we're getting hung up on it. Something that's not really important to the story itself. Interesting that the new Lord of the Rings games really focus on like defining the magic, and I wonder if that takes some of the magic away from it. It feels less vast. It's more understood.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of brings like a sense of history maybe to the story that kind of like. They all know what it's about. Yeah. So you're more focused on the characters and like what they're going to. I get that.
In a lot of ways, the worlds that have soft magic, the magic seems more like a religion to them. Yeah. And it is like that's where like the powers come from, and they don't question it because like these are the powers of the ones that created us. Like how could we question them? And they do. In Lord of the Rings, they bring up plenty of times. Why don't you do this with the magic? Why don't you do that? And Gandalf says you can't solve problems with magic because you have. If I solve a problem with magic, then I just basically solved it for myself. In order for a problem to truly be solved for you, you have to do it yourself.
And that's kind of the way soft magic is used in fiction. It creates a sense of tension.
Effectively.
Because it presents like the men are like a small part of the universe. Like there's some bigger forces out there, but your
cosmic
characters are like
beings.
really small. I mean, in the sense of hobbits too, they are very small.
The tiniest of forms. And it's usually used to directly combat the evil or the antagonistic soft magic user to sort of give rebalance to the universe. In fact, through the whole story, the whole thing with wizards, that turns out that they're a race sent to battle other evil magic people that almost the world itself wouldn't have had magic if it wasn't for these soft magic users coming in, messing things up. So they're already just trying to establish balance. They're not trying to like, let me share my wizarding ways with you.
Yeah, and it's also kind of to create tension in the way that the characters don't know what can happen.
Oh, good point.
And
yeah.
what can and can happen. You know, like say in Lord of the Rings when they go into the mines and the Balrog comes out.
Yeah.
That's a magical creature, but the characters don't know what it is. And it's
just
that much more terrifying.
Exactly. They don't know when it's stopped or not. You know, they see it disappear for a minute, and they still run because they don't know what the limits on it are.
And I know Game of Thrones is another popular series right now that I haven't neither read or watched.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was kind of surprised that I heard that they had some fantastical elements to it.
Exactly, because it's not very common in it.
And I know it's based on historical fiction.
War of the Roses.
Yes.
War of the
historical events. But it does have some magic in there, and magic like that would be soft magic, and I guess dealing with the dragons and stuff like that.
Yeah, like I said, one of our earlier episodes we brought up that when I first watched it, I'd missed a key, like a few minutes of the first episode. And when I was watching through it, I did not know magic existed in the world at all until the very last scene of the very last episode, because the magic doesn't play a main role in it. I mean, it's sort of a background theme, and it does later on have like cataclysmic effects, but it is very soft in that, like, it's not every episode you're going to see magical things happening and, you know, crazy effects. And it really does, I could see what they mean by it leading to attention, because you never know how things are going to work out. And in fact, there's the few magical users in the show that they are confident, they know how it works, and they can do whatever they want, and the show makes sure to set it up so that they fail using their abilities at some point, and then they have this loss of faith because their magic is faith.
And that's the thing is, like, you know, in these cases, like, magic causes problems.
Very directly.
And then it wouldn't be able to solve problems because it would bring up questions of, like, how is it actually working.
Very true.
Yeah, so going to hard magic, which is when the author explicitly explains how magic works.
Yeah, like they could write a whole book on just how it works.
J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, for the rest of the career. Yeah, dude, that was unintentionally set up, but very true.
Yeah.
In fact, a few authors are taking this route now, and I think a lot of them, they see it as, well, people are always going to ask the question. I think a lot of people don't appreciate soft magic, so they want to know the specific rules of, like, how the world is going to work.
Yeah.
So instead of just writing it out in the book, you get that money potential, and they'll write a whole book just explaining the rules, like textbook style. I've seen a few different series do this. The Mortal Instruments series, I think there's a lot of vampire series where they just explain how magic and powers work in the world. Wasn't that one that we looked up, a book for your daughter? Was it like Disney's?
Yes, The Descendants.
Descendants, and it was a whole book just on, like, a character's magic journal. So there you go.
And it creates the world. I think it adds details to the world
a lot.
And, you know, if you use hard magic in fiction, you can use it to solve problems because you've explained how it works.
Yeah, basically it's a tool in the world.
And magic is a character, you know, and it has laws and it has rules.
It's bound.
That you have to follow.
So a lot of times, the thing that makes it interesting is that it lets people sort of feel more involved in it. Like, they could think, oh, wow, I know how the magic works. They could solve the problem like this. And then you either see that resolved that way and you're like, yes, knew they could do this. Or they take a different twist on it. But it still fills within the realm of possibilities.
There was one example that came up that was about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Ooh.
Another series I have not seen. But there's a sequence
Wants to be in cinema here.
Yeah. Korra? What's her name? Korra. Sorry, Joe. I know I mispronounced it. Our producer is an avid fan of Avatar: Last Airbender.
And I am a rabid fan.
But Korra is imprisoned, and the way the show is that, you know, you can bend or manipulate elements.
Water, fire,
earth, air.
Earth and air.
Earth and air.
It's a lot of things.
And the thing was that it sets up that you can manipulate any source of these things. So, like water, it could be ocean water, it could be drinking water, it could be even water from your own body. Technically. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
That's how the magic works. So in this case, I don't know if I'm spoiling anything for anybody. Korra's imprisoned, and she's able to waterbend her own sweat in order to escape.
Well, they had the element that at this time...
Something like that?
They have a power gauge.
Wrong character?
Wrong character.
Yeah, it was not her. She was, what is it? It was her teacher.
Her teacher.
Was the one who was like, she found out that she's like a master waterbender. Because it showed that a lot of people can't... it's like you have the physical possibility of this, but it takes a certain level of skill to do this. And in this case, water is the power gauge on it as the moon. It's controlled by the moon, like the tides. So, like, whenever it's full moon, that's whenever they're at their strongest. Whenever it's like disappeared, it's at its weakest. So whenever there's a full moon, she would start testing out her abilities, and it explained and it sort of helped grow the world that the rules still applied. She just found a different way to apply them. And eventually, with lots and lots of practice, she was able to eventually wick off her sweat, because before it was like too weak to do it. I mean, it's not a lot of water. They kind of need a good amount to work with. And eventually she just gained control of it. And you do not question it because it just fit within the world. Very, very well written.
No, that makes sense.
The best example I would use to explain this would be the rules of magic would be like the rule of law in a lot of movies. That if they're just sort of making up random laws that don't fit into anything, it might fit the story, and you're like, oh, that was enjoyable. But for a lot of people, it's gonna fall flat because they'll know that's not how things work. Whereas like my cousin Vinny, is praised to this day for being an enjoyable film, but also for getting the law, the rule of law correct and how the courtroom worked. And you would think like, oh, that's not going to make it more interesting, but it really does make it hold up.
I mean, it makes it, I think, more concrete.
Exactly.
There was one thing, I don't know if these laws are true, but going back to another movie, Michael Clayton, it's all about law and how lawyers deal with stuff behind the scenes.
Which movie?
Michael Clayton. You haven't
seen it was called Michael Clayton. Yeah.
And I really liked that movie because it kind of seemed more technical. And I was like, okay, I can see this being real,
Yeah, it made you feel like
there was tension.
Tidbits. And then like a whole part of it is them like learning how different rule of laws can affect things, and they're discovering some stuff. Yeah. Interesting side fact, his mentor, who seems to be having a mental break because he's just having trouble reconciling, his morality with the law, because like he's finding that the law is not always moral, sort of gets enraptured with this book series that his friend's son
Michael
is reading,
and
it's a book about like magic, and it looks really weird, and I think they just made it up just for the movie. But he's talking about like he gets fixated with the rules of magic in the system.
It's like a World of Warcraft kind of novelization.
Lots of like magic wars are fighting, it's explaining how things work, and somehow he's able to connect the way the morality works in the book with what's going on in his life. And I believe he later uses an element from the book to get a message to Michael Crichton, the main character, on like how to like solve his murder, or was it solve the crime that's being happening?
It was like company was being sued for dumping chemicals into pesticides were seeping into water and making people sick. And they were defending the pesticide company, but it was kind of like how he figured out how to help the people who are being affected.
Yeah, to manipulate the law, because it was all working within the rule of law.
And this gets me thinking about horror films. And I think that's where a lot of horror films fall flat. Is that they don't know how to be defined the rules.
Yeah.
As in like a hard magic or soft magic. Because if you think of movies like The Conjuring, where it's about like ghosts or demons, this person who's like this house that's infected, you know, there are certain rules that they bring up, and it makes sense, and it doesn't go out of it. But I've seen other horror films,
Jason, Michael,
where it starts off maybe like a soft magic, where we don't know, but then they start trying to define it, and it doesn't make sense.
They don't ever work it, because they always try to define this. These are the rules of the movies, and they constantly break it because it was like never defined originally, and it becomes really hard to do that later on.
And I think maybe that was one thing with the Star Wars episodes, because like in the prequel, and I mean in the original trilogy, it seemed to start off kind of like a soft magic, kind of like there was vague rules. And then as they tried to explain it in the prequel trilogy with the midichlorians, I think that's what a lot of people didn't like, is because it just didn't make sense now. I think now it's a big problem, like in The Force Awakens and Last Jedi, that people are having trouble because they're introducing new powers, but it's like in the middle, like you need to explain it, but you don't want to explain it, kind of thing.
There was a whole thing about people rage quitting the series because they call it the EU, the extended universe, which was things that happened in the books and the side shows and like just all the extra media that wasn't the movies. And this explained the rules of how the world worked. Yeah. This was everything from like the color of the lightsaber to like how their clothes was designed, and it was like you could just go on and on and on. Check out Wikipedia; you can get lost in that thing for freaking days.
That's Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, pardon. But they destroyed all that with the new show, and I love it. Well, I mean, just even with the prequels, there was a whole thing about the color of the lightsabers meant certain things, and Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber, just because
Sam Jackson
wanted one,
lightsaber, so it's he pretty much spot himself, so he could stand out.
Exactly, that was it. And so everybody's like, but okay, we can forgive it. It has to be explained. We can forgive it because like that one time, maybe this or that, and there's like they're pretty much like we're not doing those other ones. It's pretty much just red, green, and blue again, and I don't think they mean anything anymore. The red ones are the bad guy ones. They're synthetic.
But no, they were synthetic. Oh. But now, do you know? Okay,
what now?
For Star Wars
what
fans,
unraveling?
The reason that Sith have red lightsabers is because they abuse the Force and use the dark side of the Force, and that makes the kyber crystal inside the lightsaber, which makes the lightsaber work, bleed and turn red.
Oh, a bleeding stone
makes perfect sense.
It makes all the sense. So like do they have to have a scene where like, hold on, I have to drain out my lightsaber from all this crystal blood. We're so middle. They should just go all out and make him more extra middle. And then it turns out it's like corrosive and I burned his face. He's like,
But it doesn't make sense because there's been times in the past where Sith characters have used lightsabers of different colors. So it's like, well, how does that
because they were taken off of other they were taken off of dead Jedis, which you would think would make them turn red faster.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm crying even more tears of blood in my rock source energy plasma beam weapon. Fun fact: is the Death Star still powered by kyber crystals?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool at least. But now the Star Killer base powered by suns, no kyber crystals or kyber crystals?
I didn't see it powered by the sun.
I didn't see it powered. I'm assuming not. So then two wonders like are the guns also powered by kyber crystals?
I don't.
Is the distribution of kyber crystals to weapons? Or can there be a kyber crystal gun? I don't know. To be fair, cool. You know what would be fair? They're gonna make it if they want to. There could be kyber crystal whips. We've already seen kind of energy whips, haven't we?
Please, Lucasfilm,
make everything.
Run with some of these ideas.
Just destroy everybody's dreams.
Take notes.
Bring back. I'm just saying, man. They need to bring back Ducky, yo. Make him the ultimate Sith Lord he was meant to be. You know. He's like, do you know why they call him? How I have my name? How? How did you get your name? Because I'm going to put your body in a jar jar. Chop 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 chop. Madness. Do it now.
Let us know what you think about these ideas about hard magic, soft magic. Let us know what you think about any of the stories and books and movies and TV shows that we talked about.
Blurp. Were we wrong? Got it right? How we do? Like and share.
Yeah, and let us know your take on hard magic and soft magic.
Ring that bell. Subscribe.
Thank you for watching.
Like and share.
Thank you for watching.
Like and share.